So good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of Meet the Judge. And tonight I'm joined by someone who will need no introduction to any well-seasoned terrier person, from the famous Coxgal kennels of Bull Terriers, along with Laura. Ger is well known and probably one of the best known Bull Terrier exhibitors this side of the Atlantic. FCI All Breeds judge, very well respected and very popular judge, and great fun to have on a judging panel. Good evening, Ger.
Good evening, Colin. And how are you?
We're good. How are you?
How are you this evening?
We're all right.
I'm good. I'm good. Strange times,
yes.
But we're getting there.
How are you coping?
Yeah. Okay, it's hard. I mean, as I've been saying, most of our friends we meet at dog shows or we meet away judging, and you're missing meeting a lot of people. And the worry is when all this is over, we have a lot of older people. Hopefully, we'll all be meeting up again. That's the biggest worry, I think. Yes. It's the biggest worry. Yeah. But all our social side of life is through doggy people, and it's all changed so much in the last few months. It's hard to believe.
It is, yeah.
But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Do you think we'll get back soon?
I would like to think so, but I can't see it. I think this is going to be a long road, I think.
I think Rita and I were only discussing it the other night. I think there's a danger that a lot of people might not bother coming back.
Laura and myself were saying the very same thing. A lot of people, will find different things to do. I think the foot and mouth, we lost quite a few people.
Yes.
And I think after seeing that, this could change a lot of people. They're going to look at life differently. They're going to find different things that they'd like to be doing with their families, and it's going to be hard to come back from, I think, for a lot of people.
And it's also a fact of life that by your bank balance how much this sport costs you.
Well, I think we all know with what we've got left in the bank account that you're there going, well, how have I that? Or, well, I didn't enter this and I didn't travel to that and I didn't go. But yeah, look, we've got to spend it on something. So why not spend it on something we enjoy?
So, yeah, what started you in dogs? Did your parents have dogs? Did you get involved through marriage?
No, I'd say like most young boys in Ireland, I grew up in a house full of every type of animal, but dogs were huge. My father loved and bred smooth fox terriers.
Okay.
And this was a bit of a strange combination because my mother's love was bull terriers. So you can imagine, great sport. When you see the bull terrier, you'd automatically think it was my father's dog, but no, it was actually my mother and my mother's uncles bred bull terriers. So I had always a love for dogs, but like we grew up, my father showed and my brothers showed canary birds.
Right.
One of my brothers was a bird judge, so we had guinea pigs, birds, goats, you name it. You can imagine 5 guys in the house. Everything and anything. Yeah, but dogs was always a huge part of our lives. And
so
encouraged.
What made you keep on and pick up the cudgels, as it were?
I was encouraged to show, and they encouraged me to have a breed of my own. And the breed I chose was a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. And the first dog I ever handled, first dog I handled was a smooth fox terrier. Right. But first dog that was mine, my own, was a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. And I've always had a love for Staffords, and I will always have a great love for them, and fox terriers. But Staffordshire Bull Terriers, and I went from that to the Bull Terrier, then on to the Mini. So.
And how long did it take you to start winning in your breeds, or was it a natural?
No, I left the Stafford and decided to go with the Bull Terrier. And I had a dog, a very, very nice dog. Bronson of Ashlon was my first real show dog. And I showed him, but now, Colin, you'll understand this. There was a big guard from Dublin showing Bull Terriers at the time. and he was the thorn in my side. So I remember showing him Clonmel, and Tom coming to me afterwards and looking at the dog, and I think I had got second, and Tom had won with a dog, Jesse James, Javelin Jesse James was the dog's name. And Tom encouraged me that day to stay shown. He said, that's a real good dog and you'll do well with him. And I did, but it took me about 2-3 years to make him up, but I stuck with it. And he was my first champion. Was it.
Okay. And that was your first champion?
Yeah.
And like most of us who almost grew up on dogs, certainly there were always people who influenced you within breeds or within groups. What people influenced you when you started out or kept going?
Well, there's a bit of a strange story. As I said, I started with a Stafford and then a Smooth Fox, and then I had a Bull Terrier. And I decided to go to an open show in Castle Island many years ago. And I was in the ring, real proud of myself with my Bull Terrier, and he had been doing very well at championship level. So I noticed this man watching me from the side of the ring. So I get second. And I was very happy. Open show, I think 4 in the class, I got second. And that man was Michael Hegarty.
Okay.
And class finished, and I'm really proud of myself, and I'm walking out, and Michael goes, can I have a word with you? And I said, yeah. And I'm real proud of this dog and the way. He said, that's a cracking dog. Really, really nice dog. But you know what? He said, he's not a Fox Terrier. He said, you have him strung up. And I'm going, sorry. And he said, he's a really nice, but you ruined it. It's your fault that he didn't win. And I'm looking at him so he said, then he proceeds to take the dog from me. And he has the dog and he's moving the dog up and down. And this got so serious. I think it was John Galvin went up and said to Helen Hegarty, you better go down there. I think Michael is below buying a Bull Terrier in the ring down at the end. We became great friends. And Michael kind of, you would say, took me under his wing. And we used to spend many weekends down in Crossbarry in Michael's house. And he taught me how to present my dog, how to get the best out of the dog, show how important it was. And he always stressed, you've got 2 to 3 minutes to impress a judge. And I think it's sad that I always maintain Michael went before his time. He was a young man. He was a great man for handling and for training a dog. And as I say, he taught me you have 2 to 3 minutes to show a dog to a judge. You show it its virtues, you do your best to hide its faults, and when it comes time to move, you be ready, and you move that dog. So it was Michael really encouraged me. The Terrier side of it came from the likes of John Galvin and Galson, and of course Jerry and Jimmy Sweeney. I had many a good chat with them, and they encouraged me. And I think the way to say, Colin, it's great to be born lucky. I always say this to people. I think I was very lucky. I met all the right people when I started in this game, and people who were mad to pass on knowledge and encourage you. And I think that's what we're missing now a lot of the time. There was a lot
I agree with you.
And they really wanted you to get involved and take part. And so, as I said, that's how I got, and that was my biggest thing.
Of course, back in the day, terriers were almost the kings of dog shows in Ireland, and they had very strong characters within terriers, and very knowledgeable. A wealth of knowledge within terriers.
And they didn't hide it. If you didn't perform or do to the best, they had no problem pulling you aside and telling you and keeping you straight.
And when did you first start judging?
I was encouraged by Michael Hegarty to stick with it, and I stayed with it. And he was very involved in a few open shows, and he encouraged me. And I first judged my first open show in 1988. And I remember I'd say I didn't sleep for a week, and I had to go down and spend the night before with him going through standards and studying. And I awarded Green Stars for the first time in 1990.
Okay.
So again, Cork and District, Michael Hegarty,
Yeah,
giving me the
yeah.
push, you know.
He was very good like that. And what was the best piece of advice you were given before you started judging?
I remember again, Mike saying to me, before you judge, you study the breed to the best of your knowledge.
Mm.
And when you read it again. You look at the breed, you speak to as many breeders and judge, and people you would respect within the breed.
Mm.
And then when you go in the ring, judge each dog as you would like your dog to be judged.
Mm.
And that was his advice to me.
Yeah.
And I've always went by that. Yeah.
Do you think because I'm very similar to you? I've always when I was started judging, etc. I've always asked people's advice,
Yeah.
and I've always said that part of one of the best ways of learning is to sit at the side of a breed ring and listen to the breeders, etc., etc. You know, when they're discussing dogs or discussing classes. Do you think judges these days, or aspiring judges, ask enough questions of seasoned breeders, or try and soak up as much knowledge as they can?
I would like to think so. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of Irish judges where bull terriers were concerned and where mini bulls were concerned. And I know I still have not got a problem going to anybody and saying, look, I'm down to judge one of these breeds, and I've read the standard and and I think there's nothing wrong with that. And they need to understand that. I mean, I always say, I love bull terriers. I love miniature. I love all dogs, but they're my breed. I could talk about them all day, and I'm quite happy to sit and talk with anybody about the breed and what I like. Now, what I like may not be what everybody else likes, but I always say anybody that's coming up, listen to as many breeders. Go to the ring, watch them, discuss them before you decide to judge them. And really, really, when you read the standard, as Mike used to say, stop and read it again and get it through your head, what you like, you know. But yeah, I do. I think they need to talk a lot more. And I'm a big believer in this mentoring system.
Yes.
I think that's very good. And I think it's very good that you have student judges who come in the ring and will ask you the question, and the dog is there then, and you can explain it. And I think that's better than all the reading in the world.
Yeah, I think it's very important because, I mean,
it's how we learn, Colin. You know,
yes.
That's how we learn. Yeah.
Yes. And you can read the standards till the sun goes down, but
yeah,
getting practical knowledge and inside knowledge from breeders or seasoned exhibitors, I think, is invaluable.
Yes, I agree.
And when did you achieve all breed status?
I achieved all breed status in 2017. But I started. I had done Group 3 on many occasions, Group 6, but I never pushed. I always kind of set back, and then it kind of crept up in me, if you want, to be honest. And yeah. So
again, I don't think a lot of people realize it does take a long time to achieve that status.
It does, and I think with that, and only right, a lot of experience comes with it.
Yeah.
You judge in a lot of countries, you judge a lot of different breeds, a lot of different standards, you see a lot of different, I've always said, makes and shapes of dogs, and you've got to study it. You know, it takes a long time, and yeah, and it should take a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And prior to becoming gaining all breed status, of course, you had judged away internationally quite a bit. So, roughly how many countries have you judged in so far?
To date, I think I've judged in 30 countries. Yeah, up to date. Yeah, and I was tied a few to them in the last 8 months, but that has
haven't we all? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Rita and I were lucky enough that we got to Australia just before it all happened. So we were one of the lucky ones. But aside from your own breeds, is there a breed you particularly like to judge?
I love all Group 3 breeds, all terriers, every terrier breed. But I also love hounds. I love Group 6 breeds, beagles, ridgebacks, Group 10, whippets. I love movement. So I they're my groups that I really enjoy judging. So
Funny, a lot of Terrier people say that.
Really.
And is there a fault that really irritates you?
The one thing that really gets to me is bad construction and bad movement. I just can't be doing with a badly constructed dog. And to see a dog set up in the ring with a very good handler, and they have it standing, and then it goes to move, and it falls apart. But I have another pet hate. I can't be with these people running around the ring like they're on a motorbike and dragging dogs at high speed, where you're, as a judge, you cannot assess movement. And the minute it happens, you're there going, what are they trying to hide? There's, but I mean, I think more and more now, they think fast is the thing. And it isn't. It isn't. Certain breeds shouldn't move that fast. But when I see them running around the ring at high speed, I go, no.
I'm so glad you said that, because it's become a pet hate of mine as well, because even nowadays you see Group 9 breeds been taken around the ring at a trot.
Yes.
Why?
There's no need.
That doesn't say anywhere in their standards, that their movement should be taken at that sort of pace. So, as you say, what are people trying to hide?
Yeah, as I said, Colin, and I always pass the remark when I judge my own breed. If I'm judging a bull terrier, I always say, have a good look at these little legs. They don't go at high speed. They can't go at high speed. And I managed to go around the ring with big heavyweight bull terriers and a good trot at a good pace. And, if I can do it, I'm sure they can all do it. Yeah.
And as a FCI All Breeds judge, and having judged away quite considerably, you'd be well used to critiquing.
Yes.
How do you approach critiquing, and do you think it should be introduced more widely?
I find critiquing very good, in the sense I find it very useful for young people coming into a breed, because they can read it and they can see you as a judge what you're looking for. And I always stress the point that I like to see virtues. I don't like to see faults, and I like to stress virtues. But then again, you've got to say why this dog is first, why this dog is second, why this dog is third. But I think it's very useful in breeds. Breed shows, group shows, yes. I think for us in Ireland, our entries aren't, how would I put it? We need judges to be judging more than 80 dogs. And if you're critiquing dogs, so I think for us here, breed shows and group shows, I think, are very useful. And I like to critique. As I say, it shows what you're looking for as a judge, and it'll teach exhibitors, and sometimes it calms them down when they read your critique as to why you gave their dog second or third, or graded it. You might have graded it very good, and they can read why you've graded it very good, rather than just giving it a very good and putting it out, or giving it a second. So in that sense, yes, I like critiques, and I like it. Yeah.
And as you say, this point was raised last week as well in the interview, that to introduce critiques here would certainly mean we would have to raise entry fees, because writers have to be paid in fairness to them, and that would entail an extra cost. And
the cost would fall onto exhibitors. And I mean, I think, like, we're finding it hard at the moment, hard enough to keep entries at shows. I think if it would. I think it would do more damage to introduce critiques here right now. Yeah.
And the CK system, do you like that? Would you like to see that introduced?
I can see the pluses and I can see the minuses in that as well. My attitude always is our entries big enough? I would always like to think any dogs I grade excellent and 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't need to give them CK, that they're automatically. I can understand in some of the Scandinavian countries where you can have huge classes and you might have 8 excellents, and you're kind of saying, well, they're an excellent, but would I send them further? No. As in the sense that this one is my number 1, number 2, number 3, and the CK coming in that way. But again, I don't see it working as like in our country. If you enforce the grading system, I think that's good enough.
Do you think people enforce the grading system enough?
No. I think we are, how do I put it? We're too nice at times. And I know people say, and I was in a bus with a busload of judges and a very famous judge one night, and they said, you downgrade. He said, no, I graded. I never downgrade, I grade.
Yes, that is a pet hate of mine as well.
Yeah. And I think that's the important thing. I mean, yes, I don't like to go to a show and see everything excellent, because everything isn't excellent. And we should be a little more stricter, I think, in the grade.
I think there's a happy medium to be hit.
Yes.
Certainly in the bigger breeds, in larger numerical breeds, everything cannot be excellent.
No.
They're not all going to be very good either.
And
but there is a happy medium.
Yes, and I mean, no judge is going to award a very good to a dog that doesn't deserve a very good.
Yeah.
If that dog, in their opinion, is excellent, yes, they're going to award it. But as you say, with the larger breeds, and the same applies to the smaller ones, where you have single dogs, and it's automatically getting an excellent, and you're looking at it going, hello, I'm sorry, But again, it comes down to the judges and our judges enforcing the grading system that we have.
Yeah. And touch wood, I rarely come across them, but and maybe you haven't, but irate exhibitors. How do you do it?
Yes, how to handle irate exhibitors. I think for me, I've had one or two, and I would always say to my steward, go tell them when I'm finished judging for the day, come back to me. We'll sit down and we'll discuss. And I would, hopefully by then they have calmed down. So it's not, but I think if you can be honest to them, and you can say, now sometimes they don't agree with you. I mean, Colm, I can tell you, I judged a show about a year and a half ago in Italy. And a very good story, I judged Amstaffs. And this lady came in with a dog. No, with a gentleman came in with a dog, and I gave him best dog. And a lady came in afterwards, and I gave her best bitch. So for POV, I'm sending the two of them around the ring, and the dog isn't striding out, and he's not. But the bitch is mad to go, and the lady's pulling back and trying to go. So I said, stop, put the bitch in front, around the ring. And I send them around the ring, and they're going around the ring at nice pace and the whole lot. And I give BOB to the bitch. And the gentleman with the male attacks me and starts, you don't know that, you don't. And I'm going, sorry, stop, hold on, when it's over, come back. And he did. And I said, and I told him why. I thought the female was better movement, very similar. Colm, it turned out they were brother and sister, and husband and wife. But he was still annoyed that I put his wife over him with the female. But I mean, that's that's it.
There's a question coming in there that Susan White is asking, do you think that 7 green stars is enough in this country for championship status, particularly in numerically small breeds?
I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think if the grading is enforced, and the grading is, I mean, with smaller breeds, yes, but I do think 7 green stars can be hard to come by if the grading is, if the dog is good enough at 7 green stars, he deserves to be a champion. If the dog isn't good enough and he's 20 green stars, he doesn't deserve to be a champion. So I go back to say it comes down to the judges. 7 green stars is enough if our grading system is, I mean, don't get me wrong, there is certain breeds of dog that where there can only be one turn up to a show, but it can be an outstanding dog, and it deserves its excellent, and it deserves its beauty. You know, I'm not saying just because there's one dog or two dogs in a breed, if they're good enough, yes.
Mm.
I do think our grading system should be, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, as you say, it comes right back to, excuse me, comes comes right back to judges using the grading system correctly. I think
Yes.
it's vitally important. So, what's been your biggest judging achievement to date?
Now, there's, as a bull terrier person, and I always say I'm a bull terrier, mini bull person. We have a show in the UK which is called the Trophy Show, where all the top dogs, all the top whites are invited to compete, all the top young dogs, all the top. I've been very lucky to have judged it 3 or 4 times. 4 times now, I think, and that was a huge thing for me. I judged many big shows throughout the world. I judged the group last year in Driffield, which I was honoured to judge a Terrier group in. But for me, the highlight is and will always be judging Best in Show on St. Patrick's Day. That to me is the cream of the crop. You can't ask for better than that. That was my biggest honour, and I don't think it will ever be passed. You know.
Yeah, I think that's true of most people in their own countries. I think to judge your national Best in Show at your national kennel club show is huge.
But I think it's a show for me. I've been always very lucky with it. I managed to win Best in Show in it with the Bull Terrier, and I won it with the Mini. But it has always been, for me, the highlight of dog showing in Ireland has always been St. Patrick's Day. That's our thing, you know. So yeah.
So anybody who is well seasoned in dogs in Ireland will know that you're very involved at club level of various clubs. You're probably known as the face of Limerick and District. Don't mean to do anybody a disservice on Limerick and District, but and many times we've seen you. We won't mention the rain.
The beautiful sunshine, Colin. Beautiful sunshine.
But you're also involved in breed clubs and group clubs. You've been a member of our Corlia for many, many years. And how important do you think it is to give something back to the sport? And do you think new people realise, that you have to give something back?
The worry I have is we do not have a lot of young people coming into clubs. And it's a thing I would love to see. I can remember being approached to know would I go forward for Limerick Committee. And I was approached one day at a dog show by Pat Sheehy. And Pat arrived to my house and said, look, you're doing very well now. And his exact words were, it's time to give back a little. And then I met Patter Crowley at a show, and Patter suggested the Limerick AGM was coming up, and was I going, and was I willing to go forward? And I remember chatting with Pat afterwards here in our kitchen, and he had many a conversation here with Laura and myself, and he said to us, always remember, we'll be handing this over to you one day, and it's your job to hand it over to the next generation. But sadly, Colin, in Limerick anyway, we have no young people coming on. We have our AGMs, it's the same. And I often wonder, like, there is younger people around Limerick showing. Do they just kind of think that we'll keep plodding on with the club? We're all getting older, we're all getting tired, and we need young people, and we need you. And I would like to think as a club, we're very approachable, and that young people would get involved. In our own Bull Terrier club in the last couple of years. Okay, we've had new committee members. We've had nearly our whole committee have been new exhibitors, and it's great to see it, because the younger people, the new, they all bring new ideas, and they all bring new ideas to the table.
Absolutely.
And it's, and you are now here listening to what they want out of the show and what they want out of the club. And it's great. I think it's very healthy if you can. But sadly, I don't see many young people getting involved in clubs now.
I think we're possibly better off than we have been. I think there's a few younger people sticking around now. the danger is, as you say, that the average age of all breed championship show committees is getting older.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult one to know how we combat that.
And that's my worry with this pandemic. Is will we lose a lot of the younger people that were starting to get involved? Will they go and find other things? But I think it's up to each club, and especially breed clubs, to encourage and try and run things to get them involved, to get them. Yes, it's very lucky. There's a lot of junior handlers getting involved and sticking around, and the junior handlers are great. But down this side, we don't seem to have too many getting involved. If you look at all the clubs, all Munster side, it's all older. The committees are the same committee week in, week out, year in, year out.
But it's also true that young people have more distractions, the wrong phrase. They have more things to keep them occupied.
Exactly.
We didn't have satellite television, we didn't have PlayStations, we didn't have the internet.
We didn't have internet.
So it's possibly something the Kennel Club need to look at in terms of getting maybe even a YKC or like they have in the UK to try and encourage people.
Yes, Colm, I remember going back, it's over 20 years ago in Finland, and they used to organize a week's holidays teaching. I remember going there, and they invited me to go, Laura and myself, to go and stay at this summer camp for junior handlers. And they taught them grooming, presentation, showing, stewarding. And I thought it was, but that's been going on over 20 years in Finland. They'd have a week's holidays and they camped with their dogs in the tents, with the dog. It was brilliant. That to me was a great encouragement for young people. I think we as a Kennel Club here need to look and see what we can do to bring them in. I'm not saying we have summer camps or anything, but we have to look at different ideas.
But even something as simple as I know Rita has often suggested that perhaps the junior handlers should be invited to an hour call meeting, just to sit at the back and watch, because it can get quite political and debate can be quite strong, and it might be a bit of a learning curve for them.
It would be, and I think it would teach them how and I mean, at the end of the day, it's their Kennel Club, how it operates, and it would give them an insight into it, and it might encourage them to get more involved in it. I think it would be a great idea.
And moving on, do you think judges have a role in the development of breeds? And if you do you think judges actually understand that?
I think most judges do. And I think for most judges, breed judges especially, they will zoom in on breed type and they encourage. And I think that's very good. And it's to encourage any breeder, exhibitor, and we breed for type. And I think a lot of our judges encourage, and a lot, mainly in Ireland, encourage that. And as you say, we're not the biggest of numbers, but we have some very, very knowledgeable. And I think it's proven all over the world how well respected a lot of our judges are. And I think they take it very serious.
But sometimes breed judges can get fixated on one particular fault or one particular area to the detriment of perhaps soundness or.
But I go back to it. I think that's how we're so lucky, because we're not so quiet when our judges are judging, and we have quite a few group judges who will pick them up and go, come here, you need to look at the bigger picture here, you need to look, and I think as a country we're very good at that. We're very good at that. So I think I think
it's one of the advantages of being able to judge multiple breeds, or I think all rounders can very sometimes actually hone in and say, hang on lads, you're losing type, or you're losing movement here, or let's go back to the drawing board here. And on a more serious issue there, we all remember the Panorama Pedigree Dogs Exposed episode, which opened a whole can of worms on our sport. Do you think the Bull Terrier was wrongly portrayed here, or unfairly portrayed?
I think there was two ways of looking at it. Bill Lambert, who spoke on behalf of the Kennel Club, who is a well-known Bull Terrier breeder exhibitor, who I know very, very well. I think he represented our breed very well. But I do think it caused a lot of controversy. And my big thing at the time was it was the timing of it. They timed it perfectly. And that was the TV. They timed it perfectly to have it on the week they had it on and to cause great controversy. I don't think you got the true side of the Bull Terrier. I think they over-exaggerate, but I think they did the same with many breeds, and they caused a lot of problems for many breeders and breeds. That they harped on. It's the old story. They picked on simple little things, but I do think our club, the Bull Terriers, I think were well represented. As Bill is a long-time breeder and exhibitor, and he's part of the Kennel Club UK, so he was good. He was good to be there and represent us. So I thought he came across very well. Yeah.
But and I've said it very often to various people, and you're the very person who will agree or disagree with me because it's your breed. Those of us of a certain vintage will remember Oliver, the original movie, and the Bull Terrier that was in that particular movie. There's not a whole lot of difference between that dog and Bull Terriers today, or am I wrong?
No, there is not. I mean, we went through a phase, Colin, as most breeds did, where they went for an over-exaggerated head. And they went for these parrot-type heads, which were too sharp, too much turn, and the bites paid the price of it, and the bites suffer. But I can say you can walk into the ring tomorrow, I'd say in any country, and look at the heads. The heads are back to the way they were, as you would call them. Okay, they've come on a bit more than Oliver's dog now. Yes. A bit more turn, a bit more fill under the eye. But we've lost those parrot heads. We have more, how would I put it? We don't have as many bad heads, bad bites. They're breeding more for bites, more. And the Bull Terrier does not have the breeding problems as they were trying to make them out to do. They don't. They're a very, honest.
They're not a breed that I would have expected to have had health issues, inverted commas.
Well, there is health issues in every breed, but I mean, not the way they were portraying them. No, definitely not.
And do you think the kennel clubs reacted rightly or wrongly? Was there a knee-jerk reaction?
I think they could have reacted better. I do. I think there could have been more breeders involved, and they could have did a little bit more homework before they came out with all guns blazing. And yeah, I do.
And how do you think this far on that we start dealing with it now? Because it is getting worse. When we see in Holland where the Kennel Club have gone to drastic measures now, and governments worldwide are starting to get more drastic. How are we going to combat that? And
it's a very worrying time. I mean, times for us. I mean, there's parts of Germany where you're not allowed to own a Bull Terrier. You can own a miniature, but you cannot own a Bull Terrier.
Really?
Yes. And in all my years in Bull Terriers, I've seen them have a go at other dogs. I very, very, very rarely see a Bull Terrier. And I've always said this to people. I very rarely see a Bull Terrier that would bite anybody. As a breed, they're not. If you study them where children are concerned, the only damage they can ever do to a child is to knock it over with their tail. But you'll never see them try and bite it, or you'll never see them. But health-wise, I think we have people jumping on a bandwagon, and I go back to this designer dogs. A lot of these people are trying to say, oh, well, you need to crossbreed it with this, and you need to crossbreed it with that. But they seem to be having more health problems than the pedigree dogs.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, whoever thought that crossing a Bichon with a Cavalier was a good idea? Because that's just a recipe for disaster. Exactly.
But I think a lot of this is where a lot of their information is coming from. And I do think sometimes vets have a problem. We have a problem with vets. coming out, naming out breeds and saying what problems are within them breeds. And, how we'll change it, I don't know. But like, we've lasted this long, and I'm sure, I always say, as a breeder myself of bull terriers and miniatures, I never go out to breed an unhealthy dog. I couldn't live with myself going out designedly to breed enough. I always breed to the best of my ability to breed a perfectly healthy. Things do go wrong, and you can't change that. And we never will. But as breeders, I think every one of us that are involved in pedigree dogs and showing dogs want to breed good, healthy, sound dogs. So.
But do you think the FCI is doing enough? Do you think the Kennel Club London's doing? Do you think any of our kennel clubs are doing enough? Do we need to get a little more proactive?
I would like to see a lot more proactive and a lot more. But I mean, we have so many knockers out there that's trying to knock us. We have to be very careful also, Colin. And yeah, how we would combat it, I don't know. I don't know how we would come at it. But I mean, I always think it starts with the breeders. The breeders have to be more responsible and then go from there to your kennel clubs. And that, and us as our core, I suppose, should be pushing. And the same thing, Kennel Club UK, it's their members should be pushing that they do more and do more. But like, it's a very slippery, because every time you come out with something, they seem to have another one to combat it. And to me, then you're keeping them in the loop.
Yes, because they are very well organized.
You're feeding them. So I would be saying, no, we'll start as breeders and we'll breed perfectly healthy, happy dogs. So.
And just to go back to your point on bull terriers being happy, etc., they're probably one of the most annoying breeds to judge, because to try and open that, to get to see their bait, you're in danger of being licked to death.
Yeah, and being headbutted.
And being headbutted.
They want to jump up and greet you as you're coming down to look at the bite. Yes, and I mean, that's how this should be. I always say it's great with a mini. You can put him on the table and you can keep a good grip on him and hold him. But you have a big standard bull terrier bouncing. But to me, they're the clown of the canine race, and this should be. And I try to encourage everybody, enjoy them.
Somebody just asking a question that, can you explain the different types of bull terrier? Are there different types?
In my opinion, no. You listen to people saying there is a Dalmatian type, there is a bully type. A bull terrier should be a cross between a bull and terrier. That is the type, that is the standard, that is what you look for. Okay, you can have a leaner, more terrier type dog or a more bully type dog, but he's still a bull terrier, and you judge him to that. But for me, it's the perfect combination between bull and terrier is what you look for.
Okay. Okay. And with COVID taking over right now, I think people have it's starting to pop its head back up right now at the moment with all the controversy. But Brexit, it's not gone away.
No.
And, how do you think this is going to affect us?
I do. I think it's going to have a huge effect on us. And I'll tell you why. For a lot of us that show a lot in the UK, it's how we're going to manage to show in the UK if they start enforcing our pet passports aren't good enough. But as clubs, us being part of the circuit, some of our biggest entries are coming from the UK.
Absolutely.
If dogs are coming into Ireland from abroad, 90% of them come through the UK before they get to us. So it's going to have, it's a worrying time for us. It's going to have a huge effect. I think it's going to have a very big effect on us. But how we're going to combat it again, I don't know. But I mean, if they get this hard border, is the north going to be affected? Coming down to shore, northern Ireland? This is the worry. This is the big worry,
Again, those of us of a certain vintage remember going to Belfast show every year, and you're stuck in a mile-long queue at the border trying to get through a checkpoint. Is this going to start happening again?
Yeah, the problem there, Colin, is I was too young to remember that.
Really?
Oh no, I remember it well.
I think Laura probably disagree with you there.
I remember being in Newry again with Michael Hegarty, and he shouted and roared, and he tried to overtake cars to get through. We're going to miss our class. We're going to miss our class. and you facing soldiers with machine guns and looking at you, you know. But yeah,
Yes, I always remember you had to be careful as well when my mother-in-law Resta was going through the border because you had to keep the windows rolled up in case she might say something and the bushes might run. Somebody might step out.
yeah, yes, oh yeah,
Yes, it was strange times.
yeah. But
Um,
that is our worry. Is that going to
yes.
come back with this Brexit? It's you know, I know.
Well, time will tell, and I think we're going to find out sooner rather than later now.
I think so. I think so.
So, on a lighter note, now that we've dusted off all the serious stuff, um, 4 must-have dinner guests. And I believe you're a great cook, so you're doing the cooking. Who are your 4 guests?
Well, if I was cooking, you'd have no guests. That's first of all. Well, I suppose 4 guests now.
Past or present?
Well, the one I can't be without, of course, is my identical twin, my right hand, and that would be Tom here. The next one, it'll be an interesting one. A gentleman, Hans Lettinen from Finland.
Mm.
I always found him great company. He was always so, I could sit and listen to him all night when he discussed dogs because you could hear the passion.
Mm-hmm.
Another one would be Andrew Brace, who I thoroughly enjoy, and Maria Taravati from Finland. They would be my 4 then, I guess, that I would thoroughly enjoy an evening with all 4 of those.
Yeah. So Laura's going hungry.
She's doing the cooking.
Oh, okay. Funniest or most embarrassing moment as an exhibitor or judge or both?
Now, this
We've got time.
This is a good one. I'm going to give you a little one-liner, and I'm going to stop it at that, and then I will tell you. There's a story, a very famous story, of myself and Tom Hare turning up to a wedding in Luxembourg. End of it. And that will be for another time.
Okay.
The most embarrassing moment for me, the grading system had just come in here in Ireland. Well, it wasn't long in. And I was showing a pair of bull terriers. My dog was a champion, and my female was short 1 win to be a champion. And I was a well-known judge. I was well-known in the ring. So I go in with my dog, win champion dog, come out, back in for the challenge, win the ticket. Thank you very much. Thank you to the judge. Out. And I'm looking and I'm going, we have it today. We have it today, because there was only a puppy and I think 2 junior females. And then my female was in open. So I said, she's in form, she's looking well. So they go in and win their classes, so open, and in I go, real proud. And this female could be a bit, as you just said, the bull terrier bouncing around the place. You could be, but on the day, she was spot on, perfect, stood beautiful, showed her heart out. I moved her, she moved beautiful. So thank you, sir. First, thank you very much. Into my pocket, out of the ring, and Laura standing there, and I'm saying to her, hold the dog now. So the steward, well-known steward, who always stewards in the same ring for the same group, calls unbeaten. So I'm running in, and he's saying to me, "No, you're all. I know you're okay." I said, "I know, up to the top. I know exactly where I'm going. You're no, Jeff, no, you're okay, you're okay." And I'm up to the top, and I'm standing in the front. And the judge comes down and says, "Sir, would you mind leaving me?" I said, "Sorry." And the steward comes over. He said, "Jeff, did you read your grading card?" And I said, So I'm in the ring and I'm going, no, I stand here. I'm. So I take out the grading card and I look very good. And I go into my pocket. I said, very, very sorry. And I slip out of the ring. And it taught me a lesson. I've never, no matter how many dogs are at the show, came out of the ring and went after my class without reading the grading.
Oh dear.
I will never forget the embarrassment. And of course, everybody around the ring never let me forget. But the day I tried to win the ticket with a very good dog.
You're Tom now.
So yes, that was that. Yeah, that was probably my most embarrassing moment ever. Yeah.
So what about Luxembourg? You opened the can of worms.
Tom is going to kill me for this one, but Tom and I were in Luxembourg judging, and it was, I think, around June, and we were staying in this hotel, and he kept telling me this hotel is magnificent, and it was magnificent. So we're there and we're judging. I think we're judging a club, group show, the Terrier group show, group 3 show. But while we were there, we looked and we said, "Geez, there's a pool and there's a gym and it's fantastic." So we said, yeah. So as we're finishing judging, the people that were running the show came up and said, "Would you like to come back? We're having an all-breed international show in September." So of course, yeah, by all means, the 2 of us will be back. Yeah. So we're on our way home, and Thomas said, "When we're coming back now, we'll bring the swim gear, and when we finish judging the first day, we can come back to the hotel, go for a swim, freshen up, the whole." Yeah, perfect. So we go the first day. We go, judge, came back. We go to the room. Yeah, up to the room. Now, my twin, my identical twin, as Andrew Brace used to call him, Tom. Anybody that knows us, you had a gown in your room, but one gown fitted all. Okay, one size. So Tom is in the gown and it's barely coming around him. I'm in the gown and I'm like Batman. He's flying behind me. But we also have slippers. And I can fit my feet into the slippers, but Tom is having a problem fitting his feet into the slippers. So we're laughing at this and we're heading down to the pool. And think of it now, picture this, Colin. I'm like Batman with this thing flying behind me as I'm walking along in all business.
There.
Tom isn't walking very well in the slippers that he's in. So we get into the lift and the 2 of us are busting our sides laughing. We go to the floor for the pool and the whole lot, the door open, 2 of us hop out, and we're in the middle of a wedding. But I could run. But all Tom saw was my white cloak flying, and he was coming after me. So, needless to say, we haven't been back. So, yeah.
Oh dear. Okay. Tom won't forgive us for that.
That's something for you to think about now.
I'm gonna have nightmares. So if you couldn't live in Ireland, is there a country you'd love to live in?
I have always said I would love to retire to the south of France. We go to France every year for holiday, and we try and spend about 3 weeks there. And I love the climate, the food, the whole thing. The only thing is I've judged a few dog shows there, but not many. I think it would come to would I stay if the dog shows weren't the scene that I liked. I think that would determine where I would live. But the weather, the lifestyle, the whole thing in the south of France, I love. So yeah, that one.
Yes, I've just had a message from Tom here that he's blushing.
I don't believe it. You couldn't make him blush.
Have you mastered the language in France?
My wife has.
Oh, fair play. So finally, Ger, if you could write your epitaph, what would it be?
I've always said, I've lived life as I wanted to live. I've lived, loved, laughed, and have no regrets. That's my,
Well, Ger, it's been absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you for taking the time.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been fascinating. Next week, I'm very excited to say that we have Elizabeth Lavalde from Zimbabwe, all breeds judge, and I think she should be very interesting as a different aspect of dog showing and learn about dog shows in Africa. In the meantime, thank you very much, Ger.
Thank you, Colin.
All our love to Laura and the family, and we shall see you on the other side.
See you soon, I hope. And all my best to Aisha and the family. Take care. Thanks a lot.
Good night, my friend.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.